There's something deeply human about the desire to disappear, to shed the weight of civilization and return to something simpler, more honest. Tonight, you'll walk alongside a man who took that yearning further than most would dare. Stepping away from the world of men into the ancient rhythms of the mountains. His name was Aldrich, and in the year 1247, in the shadow of the Pyrenees, he made a choice that would transform him in ways he never imagined. You feel the morning mist against your face as you stand at the edge of the village of Montclar, watching the last wisps of smoke curl up from chimneys that will soon grow cold. The stones beneath your feet are worn smooth by centuries of footsteps and move toward the mountains that have always called to you, their peaks shrouded in clouds and mystery. The path begins as cobblestones, then becomes packed earth, then rough stones that catch at your leather boots with each step. Each inhale brings the clean scent of pine and wild herbs. Each exhale releases a little more of the tension you've carried for so long. The muscles in your legs burn with the effort of climbing, but it's a good burn, a clean pain that feels honest after months of the dull ache of sorrow. And the air carries the scent of baking bread and wood smoke, familiar comforts that you're about to leave behind forever. The sun warms your face, and for the first time in months, you feel something approaching peace. Not the peace of forgetting, but the peace of acceptance, of finding your place in something larger than your own grief. You pass stands of oak and beech, their leaves rustling overhead in shades of green that seem to glow in the filtered sunlight. Following the sound, you discover a small valley tucked between two ridges, protected and hidden from the world below. An old billy goat, his beard long and white, his horns curved like ancient cymbals, steps forward and looks directly into your eyes. The goats don't move away. Instead, they seem to accept your presence, continuing their evening rituals of grazing and gentle interaction. Their soft movements and occasional bleats become a lullaby, and for the first time since the fever took your family, you sleep without dreams of loss. In that moment, you feel something pass between you, not words, not thoughts, but a recognition that runs deeper than language. You will stay here, in this valley, with these creatures who have accepted you without question or judgment. You will learn their ways, live by their rhythms, and perhaps, in doing so, find a path back to something you thought was lost forever. And there, in the fading light, you see them. A small herd of goats, their forms dark against the pale grass, their eyes catching the last gleam of starlight. You wake with the sun, drink from the clear stream that runs through the valley, and spend your days moving with the herd as they graze. Your hands grow stronger from supporting your weight. Your sense of smell sharpens until you can detect the approach of weather changes or the presence of other animals. Your diet changes, too. You find yourself eating more of the wild plants and grasses. Your body somehow knowing which ones will nourish you and which to avoid. Your hair lengthens and becomes coarser, and you find yourself growing a beard that you don't think to trim. Your clothes, made for village life, begin to wear thin and tear, and you don't replace them. Instead, you learn to regulate your body temperature as the goats do, finding warm spots in the sun when you're cold, cool shade when the heat becomes too much. You learn their language, not words, but the subtle communications of posture and sound, the way they signal danger or contentment, the way they show affection or establish boundaries. He leads you to the best grazing spots, shows you which plants are safe to eat, teaches you through patient example how to read the mountain weather. When storms approach, he guides the herd to shelter, and you follow, learning to sense the subtle shifts in air pressure and wind direction that announce rain or snow. You kneel beside it, cupping the cold water in your hands and drinking deeply. But gradually, almost without realizing it, you begin to change. You find yourself dropping to your hands and knees to reach the sweetest grass, tasting it curiously and finding it not unpleasant. You begin to sleep, curled up like they do, conserving warmth and finding unexpected comfort in the position. The constant chatter of human worries and regrets fades, replaced by a quieter awareness of the present moment. You notice the way sunlight falls across the valley floor at different times of day, the way the wind carries different scents, and sounds, the way the goat's behavior changes with the phases of the moon. The goats are still there, and as you stir, several of them look up from their grazing with what seems like mild interest. The old billy goat approaches, and you find yourself reaching out to touch his coarse fur, feeling the warm, living presence beneath your palm. You know you need to find shelter soon, but you're not worried. Something in you has awakened during this day of walking, some ancient knowledge that your ancestors carried, but that civilized life had nearly smothered. It tastes of minerals and stone, of deep places in the earth where no human foot has ever trod. The weight of grief is still there, but it feels different now, not the crushing burden it was yesterday, but something more like a stone you can carry, a reminder rather than a prison. You look around the valley, taking in the way the morning light illuminates the grass, the way the goats move with such natural grace, the way the mountains rise around you like protective walls. As you drink, you notice something. The silence here is not empty, but full of life, full of presence, full of something you can't quite name. Occasionally, you catch glimpses of movement in the undergrowth, flash of brown fur, the quick dart of a bird, the scurry of small creatures going about their mysterious business. You see their faces in the morning light streaming through windows, hear their voices in the laughter of other children playing in the narrow streets, and pine that seem to reach toward the sky with an almost desperate yearning. You understand that yearning now. Feel it in your own chest as you push yourself higher, away from the world you've known, toward something unknown but necessary. The pain has become unbearable, a constant ache that no amount of prayer or work can ease. Your name is Aldrich, and you are 32 years old. Your hands, calloused from years of working leather, tremble slightly as you adjust the rough hemp rope that holds your few possessions. The sounds of the village fade behind the clatter of cartwheels, the calls of merchants, the endless chatter of human voices. In their place, you begin to hear something else, the whisper of wind through pine needles, the distant trickle of water over stones, the soft padding of your own footsteps on the mountain path. A small knife, a water gourd, a tattered cloak that once belonged to your father, and a wooden cross carved by your own hands in the long night after the fever took your wife and children. The weight of grief sits heavy in your chest, a stone that grows heavier with each passing day in this village where every corner holds a memory. So you walk. Step by step, you leave behind the world of men. As you climb higher, the air grows thinner and cooler against your skin. Your breathing grows deeper, more intentional. The path winds higher, following the contours of the mountain like an ancient river. By midday, you reach a small clearing where a spring bubbles up from between moss-covered rocks. You rest here for a while, your back against the rough bark of an ancient pine. As afternoon lengthens into evening, you continue climbing. The path grows steeper, more challenging. Winding through stands of fir, the sun begins to set, painting the western sky in shades of gold and crimson. Just as the last light fades, you hear it, a soft bleating carried on the evening wind. They don't flee at your approach. Instead, they regard you with the calm curiosity of creatures who have learned to judge intent rather than appearance. You find a sheltered spot against a large boulder, wrap yourself in your cloak, and settle in for the night. You wake to the sound of morning birdsong and the gentle warmth of the sun on your face. Something has changed in you during the night. You make a decision that seems to come from somewhere deeper than thought. The days that follow blur together in a rhythm as old as life itself. At first, you remain distinctly human, walking upright while they move on 4 legs, eating the small amount of food you brought while they graze. The old billy goat, whom you've begun to think of as your guide, seems to encourage these changes. Your body begins to adapt to this new life. The transformation is not just physical. As the weeks pass, you find your thoughts becoming simpler, more immediate. Summer deepens, and your skin grows brown from the sun. The other goats begin to accept you more fully as the days pass. A young doe, her coat a warm brown with white markings, seems particularly drawn to you. As autumn approaches, you notice the goats growing thicker coats, and somehow your own body responds as well. You don't question it. Questioning has become foreign to you, replaced by a simple acceptance of what is. Your beard grows thicker. Your body develops a layer of fat that will help you survive the coming cold, and your remaining clothes become less and less necessary. She often grazes nearby, and sometimes when you're resting, she's settled down beside you. Her warm body, a comfort against the cool mountain air. Your hands and feet have toughened until you can walk on rough stone without pain. Your joints have become more flexible, and your digestion has adapted to a diet of mountain plants, bark, and the occasional bit of moss. In return, you help the herd in ways that surprise even you. Your human intelligence allows you to solve problems that challenge your companions. You learn to break ice so the herd can drink, to find the best paths through deep snow, to sense danger before it appears. New grass pushes up through the dark earth, and the goats greet it with obvious joy. Their winter coats beginning to shed in patches. You feel the change in your own body to a lightness, a renewed energy, a sense of being reborn along with the season. Not because you've forgotten your family, but because you found a new way to carry their memory. Human voices carried on the wind from the valley below. The sound is foreign now, harsh and loud after nearly a year of communicating only through the subtle language of your adopted family. Or you could remain hidden, continue living as you have, as part of the herd, part of the mountain, part of something larger than human society. These are people who cared about you, who have spent time and effort looking for you. Part of you feels a flicker of the old human emotion, a sense of obligation and connection to your former community. You recognize Father Marcus, the village priest, his face lined with worry. There's Pierre, the blacksmith, your neighbor from the old life, carrying a pack that probably contains food and warm clothes for you. Their concern touches you, but it feels distant, like watching actors in a play about someone else's life. You've lost the ability to live easily in human society, lost the complex pleasures of civilization, lost the possibility of human romantic love or parenthood. But you've gained something to a peace that goes deeper than happiness, a connection to the natural world that most humans never experience, a way of being that is both simpler and more profound than your former life. They look to you now not as a strange addition to their group, but as a full member, worthy of respect and trust. When danger threatens a wolf pack moving through the valley, a sudden storm, a rock slide that blocks a familiar path, they turn to you for guidance as often as to the old billy goat. In the patient strength of the old billy goat, you see something of your father's wisdom. The goats relax, returning to their grazing, but you remain still, processing what has just happened. You had a moment where you could have chosen to return to humanity, and you let it pass. The realization brings not regret, but a sense of completion, of having finally found where you belong. He approaches and rests his great head against your shoulder, a gesture of affection that speaks louder than words. In his dark eyes, you see understanding, acceptance, in something that might be love, not the desperate, possessive love of humans, but the steady, patient love of creatures who know their place in the world. In the gentle playfulness of the young kids, you glimpse the joy your children once brought to your life. You've learned to think in the present tense, to find joy in simple things, the taste of fresh grass, the warmth of sun on your back, the companionship of creatures or judgment. Your body has adapted completely now. You move as naturally on 4 legs as you ever did on 2, and you can survive comfortably on the foods the mountain provides. In the quiet devotion of the doe who still chooses to rest beside you, you feel an echo of the love you shared with your wife. You move differently, to no longer the upright stride of a human, but a 4-legged gait that feels natural and efficient. You look at your hands, now nearly as tough as hooves, at your body, lean and strong from a year of living as the goats do. You think about the peace you found here, the simplicity, the freedom from the crushing weight of human grief and expectation. You find yourself drawn to move at night, now following the herd as they browse by moonlight, finding that your eyes have adapted to see more clearly in darkness. Someone must have seen your tracks or smoke from a fire, though you haven't made fire in months. The goats sense your tension and begin to move nervously, clustering together in the way they do when predators are near. The night sounds the rustle of small creatures, the distant call of an owl. The soft footfalls of your companions no longer startle you, but become part of the symphony of your new existence. That identity feels like something that happened to someone else in a different life. Now you are simply part of the herd, part of the mountain, part of the endless cycle of seasons and survival. Your grief has not disappeared, but it has transformed into something else, a deep understanding of the preciousness of life, a gratitude for each moment of warmth and safety. You begin to think of her as a friend, though you realize the word feels strange now, too human for what you've become. The face that looks back at you is almost unrecognizable. Wild hair, bright eyes, skin weathered by sun and wind. Your transformation is complete in ways you never expected. You've learned to read the mountain's moods, to predict weather changes days in advance, to find food and shelter in places that would have seemed barren to your former self. The first snows fall soft and silent, transforming the valley into a world of white and silver. The goats huddle together for warmth, and you find yourself drawn into their circle, sharing body, heat, and breath in the ancient way of creatures who know that survival depends on cooperation. But more than that, there's something in your expression that has changed. A quality of alertness and peace that you've never seen before. You are becoming something new, something that exists in the space between human and animal, between civilization and wilderness. The seasons change with a slowness that lets you feel each shift in your bones. The harvest moon rises full and bright, casting silver light across the valley. One night, as you move through the moonlit valley, you catch sight of your reflection in the still water of a mountain pool. Winter comes early to the mountains, and with it, your greatest test. Your body has changed even more now. The old billy goat watches over you during these harsh months, leading you to sheltered spots where the wind can't reach, showing you how to dig through snow to find edible plants beneath. As the winter deepens, you realize that you've stopped thinking of yourself as Aldrich, the man who lost his family. The spring thaw comes slowly, water trickling and rushing down the mountainsides as the snow melts. You've been with the herd for almost a year now, and you can barely remember what it felt like to walk on two legs all the time, to wear clothes, to worry about human concerns. But perhaps, most importantly, you've learned to live without the constant ache of loss. One morning in late spring, as you're grazing in a meadow thick with wildflowers, you hear something that makes you lift your head in alarm. The voices grow closer, and you realize they're search parties from the village looking for you. You have a choice to make. You could reveal yourself, return to the world of men, and try to resume your former life. The voices grow louder, and you can make out words, now your name being called, expressions of concern and determination. But as you crouch behind a boulder, the warm weight of the dough pressed against your side, you realize how far you've traveled from that world. The search party passes close enough that you can see their faces. They call your name for several more minutes, then continue up the mountain, their voices fading into the distance. The summer passes in a blur of warm days and cool nights of moving through the high meadows with your adopted family. As autumn approaches again, marking the full year of your transformation, you reflect on what you've gained and what you've lost. The old billy goat, your guide and teacher, seems to sense your reflective mood. As the year turns and winter approaches once more, you feel a subtle shift in your relationship with the herd. You've become something new, something that exists in the space between species, between wild and civilized, between human and animal. Your intelligence has not dimmed, but it has changed, becoming more intuitive, more connected to the rhythms of the natural world. You can predict whether it changes, sense the presence of predators, find water and food in places that would challenge even experienced hunters. The second winter is easier than the first. Your body knows what to expect now, how to conserve energy, how to find warmth and shelter. You've been with them for more than a year now, and you realize that you found what you were looking for without knowing what it was. Way to live that honors both your human past and your animal present. You've learned to read the mountain's moods, to know when storms are coming long before they arrive, to find the hidden places where the wind can't reach and the snow doesn't accumulate. You've learned to live entirely in the present, to find satisfaction in the simple tasks of survival, to appreciate the beauty of the world without the need to possess or control it. Your days are filled with small pleasures, the taste of fresh spring water, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the companionship of creatures who have accepted you as family. The grief that drove you to the mountains has not disappeared, but it has transformed into something else, deep appreciation for the fragility and preciousness of life, a gratitude for each day that you're given. But these thoughts no longer bring pain, they're more like memories of a dream, distant and somehow unreal. From him, you've learned patience, resilience, and the art of living without anxiety about the future. One that finds meaning in simplicity and connection rather than in achievement and accumulation. You've learned that there are many ways to live a meaningful life. Not as ghosts or spirits, but as part of the great web of life that connects all living things. The grief that once threatened to destroy you has become a source of compassion, a deep understanding of the preciousness of life and the importance of cherishing each moment you're given. You carry your lost family with you always, not as a burden, but as a blessing, a reminder of the capacity for love that exists in the world. For the goats who accepted you, for the mountain that sheltered you, for the seasons that taught you patience, for the simple miracle of being alive in this moment, in this place, as this creature you've become. But it will live on in the mountains, in the memory of the stones and trees, in the genetic knowledge of the herd. That will pass down through generations, the understanding that sometimes humans can become something more than human, something that bridges the gap between civilization, and wildness. As the third year begins, you discover that your journey into wildness has only just begun. The mountain has more lessons to teach, more secrets to reveal, more ways to strip away the last vestiges of your human existence and rebuild you into something that has never existed before. Your wife's gentle strength lives on in the patient endurance of the doe beside you. Sometimes, when difficult decisions must be made, where to shelter during a storm, whether to venture into a valley that might hold predators, how to respond to the scent of strange animals, he looks to you for guidance. The herd has learned to trust your judgment as much as his, and you feel the weight of that responsibility settling into your bones. Your children's joy echoes in the playful antics of the young kids. A new herd of goats appears in the valley, led by a young, aggressive Billy who sees your territory as his for the taking. The confrontation is inevitable, and you watch with growing tension as the two groups face each other across the meadow. Hackles raised, eyes locked in the ancient challenge that determines dominance. In his place stands a creature of the mountains, a being who has learned to live without the constant weight of human sorrow, who has found peace in simplicity and joy in the basic fact of existence. Your body has continued to change, adapting in ways that would seem impossible to the man you once were. Your hands have grown broader, your fingers stronger, your nails thick and hard as horn. Your feet have widened and toughened until you can traverse the sharpest rocks without discomfort. The transformation is complete, and it is beautiful. Your senses have sharpened beyond human capability. You can smell a storm 3 days away, hear the heartbeat of a mouse beneath the snow, see clearly in near total darkness. Your understanding of the mountain's rhythms has deepened until you can predict the movements of every creature, the flow of every seasonal change, the subtle shifts in weather that determine life and death in this harsh environment. Your father's wisdom speaks through the steady guidance of the old billy goat, and that sometimes the path to healing leads not back to where you started, but to somewhere entirely new. You've learned to trust your instincts, to read the signs that nature provides, to find your place in the complex web of relationships that governs life in the mountains. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new pleasures, new moments of simple contentment. But tonight, you rest in the knowledge that you've found your place in the world, a place that honors both your human past and your animal present, a place where you can be exactly who you've become. You've learned to find peace in this impermanence, to appreciate each moment without clinging to it, to accept change as the fundamental nature of existence. You've become something new, something that exists in the space between civilization and wilderness, of being exactly where and what you're meant to be. Your transformation is complete, but it's not an ending, it's a beginning. You've learned that transformation is possible, that loss can lead to discovery, that sometimes the greatest healing comes from letting go of who you thought you were and becoming something entirely new. They accept you as naturally as their mother did, climbing on your back when they're tired, curling up against your warmth when they sleep. In their trust and affection, you find a kind of redemption, a way to be part of nurturing and protecting life again. But more than that, you've learned to find contentment in the simple fact of survival, in the basic pleasure of being alive and healthy and part of something larger than yourself. When her kids are born to healthy females with their mother's gentle nature, you feel a joy that surprises you with its intensity. Not the complex, anxious love of human parenthood, but the simple pleasure of watching new life flourish. Spring returns with its familiar miracle of renewal. The snow melts, the grass grows green again, and the goats celebrate with an energy that you share. The doe, who has been your closest companion throughout this journey, is pregnant, and you find yourself sharing in the anticipation of new life. You help care for the kids, teaching them the lessons you've learned about finding food and avoiding danger. The seasons continue their eternal cycle, and you settle into a rhythm that feels as natural as breathing. Sometimes, in quiet moments, you think about the man you used to be, the village life you left behind, the grief that drove you to the mountains. The old billy goat, now showing his age, but still strong and wise, continues to be your teacher and guide. As your second year with the herd draws to a close, you realize that you found something that most humans spend their entire lives searching for, a sense of belonging. The mountain peaks around you stand eternal and unchanging, but you know that everything else is in constant flux. The seasons, the weather, the lives of the creatures who call this place home. Your story is not one of returning to humanity, but of finding a different way to be human, one that honors both your intelligence and your animal nature. The sun sets over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, and you settle down for the night, surrounded by your chosen family. In the deepest part of the night, when the stars shine bright and clear in the mountain air, you sometimes feel the presence of those you've lost. You've learned that love doesn't end with death, but transforms, becoming part of the larger pattern of existence. The mountain keeps its secrets, and you've become one of them, man who chose to live as something other than human, who found healing in the most unexpected place. As dawn approaches, bringing with it the promise of another day in your chosen life, you feel a deep sense of gratitude. Your story will never be told in the village below will never be recorded in the histories of men. The man named Aldrich is gone, transformed beyond recognition into something new and strange and wonderful. But the story does not end here. The early morning mist clings to the valley floor like a living thing, and you move through it with the easy grace of a creature born to this place. But it's not just your physical form that has transformed. The old billy goat, now ancient by goat standards, but still the acknowledged leader of the herd, has begun to treat you not as a student, but as an equal. Spring arrives with unusual warmth, and with it comes a challenge you haven't faced before. Your old guide steps forward, his white beard catching the morning light, his massive horns lowered in a gesture of warning. The young challenger responds with a display of his own, pawing the ground and snorting, his powerful body tense with the promise of violence. But then something unexpected happens. The young Billy's attention turns to you, and you see puzzlement in his eyes, followed by something that might be fear. You're no longer just an adopted member, you've become their protector, their guardian, their bridge between the world of animals. The glaciers that crown the highest peaks have begun to retreat, leaving behind valleys that haven't seen sunlight in centuries. New plants push up through the exposed soil, and new creatures venture into territories that have been locked in ice for generations. You haven't just changed physically, you've become a conduit between different worlds, different ways of being. Your human consciousness, combined with your animal instincts, allows you to perceive things that neither fully human nor fully animal creatures can grasp. You see the connections between all living things, feel the pulse of life that flows through every stone and tree and stream. The mountain is revealing secrets that have been hidden since before the first humans walked these paths. You begin to move with a grace that seems almost supernatural, to anticipate events before they happen, to understand the secret languages that all creatures speak but few can hear. They dance and hunt and commune with creatures that have never walked the earth, yet somehow seem more real than anything you've encountered in either world. As you study the paintings, you realize that your transformation isn't unique. Us have walked this path before, have found ways to become something that exists between worlds. You're not just healing from personal loss. You're taking on the role of guardian, of keeper, of the ancient balance. The mountain needs you. The wild places need you. The creatures who cannot speak for themselves need you. The herd follows you with a devotion that borders on worship, sensing in you something sacred, something that connects them to the deeper mysteries of existence. He's ancient by any measure, has led the herd through countless seasons, has taught you everything he knows about survival in this harsh environment. As spring approaches, you know that his time is coming to an end, and you feel the weight of responsibility settling more heavily on your shoulders, and the wild places, the gradual destruction of the balance that has existed for centuries. His passing marks the end of an era, but also the beginning of a new one. You guide them with the wisdom of the old billy goat, but also with your own unique understanding of both human and animal nature. You teach them to avoid the expanding settlements, to read the signs of human activity, to find safety in the high places where few dare to venture. Your thoughts have become more complex, incorporating both human reasoning and animal instinct in ways that create new forms of understanding. You can perceive patterns in nature that would escape both human scientists and animal intuition, can predict ecological changes that won't manifest for years, can understand the deep connections between all living things. The herd looks to you now, not just as a guardian, but as their leader, their guide through the changing world. They depict the last of the bridge creatures, the beings who could speak to both worlds, falling one by one as the space between civilization and wildness grows too wide to cross. There, in the ancient way of the mountains, you leave him to return to the elements that gave him life. You are no longer human, no longer animal, but something entirely new, bridge between worlds, a guardian of the balance, a keeper of ancient wisdom. The responsibility is immense, but so is the peace that comes with knowing your purpose. The ceremony is simple, wordless, but profound in its recognition of the cycle of life and death that governs all existence. Smoke rises from new settlements. The ring of axes echoes up from the valleys. The storms are more violent than any you've experienced. The cold more bitter, the snow deeper. But you guide the herd through it all, your expanded senses allowing you to find shelter and food where none seems to exist. The human world continues to expand, and eventually, the two worlds will collide in a way that threatens everything you've sworn to protect. When that time comes, you'll need to use all the wisdom you've gained, all the understanding you've developed, to find a way to preserve the balance between civilization and wildness. You learn to read the mountain's moods with an accuracy that seems supernatural, to predict avalanches and storms and the movements of predators days before they occur, and the paths that were once used only by hunters and pilgrims now carry the heavy traffic of merchants and soldiers. He has been waiting for you, has been preparing you for this moment when you would understand your true purpose. The leadership of the herd has been his responsibility for so long. But now, he can pass it to someone who can protect them, not just from natural predators, but from the expanding world of humans. The human world is expanding, reaching toward the mountains with an hunger that you recognize from your former life. Your unique nature, which once made you feel isolated and strange, has become a source of strength for the community that has accepted you. You realize that your transformation isn't just about your own healing, it's about something larger. Something that involves the balance between human and natural worlds. You've become a guardian, not just of this herd, but of the mountain itself. A keeper of ancient wisdom that the world of men has forgotten. Inside, you discover something that takes your breath away. Paintings on the walls, created by human hands, but depicting something that seems to bridge the gap between human and animal consciousness. You realize what he's seeing, a creature that doesn't fit into any category he understands. Not fully human, not fully goat, but something in between that challenges his comprehension of the natural order. You discover meadows of impossible beauty, where flowers bloom in colors that seem to glow with their own inner light. You find springs that bubble up from deep within the earth. Their water so pure and cold that it seems to carry the essence of the mountain itself. You encounter creatures that exist nowhere else. Mountain goats with coats like silver, birds that sing in harmonies that seem to echo the music of the spheres. Your scent is wrong. Your very existence is an impossibility that makes him uncertain and afraid. That uncertainty gives your herd the advantage they need, and the confrontation ends without violence as the newcomers retreat to find territory elsewhere. The incident marks a turning point in your relationship with the herd. As summer reaches its peak, you notice changes in the mountain itself. You feel compelled to explore these new territories, and the herd follows you higher than they've ever gone before. In these high places, you begin to understand something profound about your transformation. The revelation changes you even more deeply. But with this new understanding comes a new responsibility. As autumn approaches once more, you notice signs of change in the world below. The old billy goat, now so ancient that his steps have become uncertain, leads you to a place you've never seen before, a cave high on the mountain's face. Its entrance hidden behind a waterfall. The images show figures that are part human, part animal, part something else entirely. But the paintings also tell a darker story. They show the conflict between the expanding human world. You understand now why the mountain called to you, why your grief led you to this place, why your transformation has been so complete. The old billy goat touches your shoulder with his graying muzzle, and in his eyes you see understanding, approval, and something that might be relief. Winter comes early and harsh, testing your new role as guardian. The herd survives the winter stronger than ever, but you notice that the old billy goat grows weaker with each passing day. He dies peacefully on a morning when the sun breaks through the clouds for the first time in weeks. his great head resting on your lap, his dark eyes fixed on something beyond the visible world. You carry his body to the highest peak accessible to the herd, to a place where eagles soar and the wind carries the scent of snow and stone. In the days that follow, you feel the full weight of your transformation. The herd has grown under your protection. New kids born each spring, new members occasionally joining from other groups. But you also know that the time will come when avoidance won't be enough. As your 4th year in the mountains begins, you notice subtle changes in yourself that go beyond the physical. This expanded consciousness brings new challenges. You begin to see the future with a clarity that is both gift and burden, the inevitable expansion of human settlements, the gradual destruction of wild places, the extinction of species that have existed for millennia. But you also see possibilities for harmony, ways that the two worlds might coexist, if only there were bridges between them. You realize that your transformation has been preparing you for this moment, this understanding of your true purpose. She's a young woman, barely out of childhood, fleeing from something in the world below. Her eyes hold the same desperation you remember from your own early days in the mountains. The same desperate need to escape from pain too great to bear. Without thinking, you rush to her aid, your human intelligence overriding your animal caution. Fear, confusion, disbelief, she sees something that shouldn't exist, a creature that challenges every assumption about the nature of reality. She lost her family to disease, fled from a village where every face reminded her of her loss, sought refuge in the mountains where she hoped to find peace or death. As she tells her story, you feel the echo of your own journey, the same desperate need to escape from unbearable pain. But beneath the fear, you recognize something else, a desperate need for connection, for understanding, for someone who might share her pain. You pull her from the crevice, tend to her injuries with skills that seem to emerge from some deep memory, and carry her to the shelter of the herd. She needs healing, needs to find a way to live with her loss, needs to discover that there are ways to exist beyond the narrow boundaries of human society, teaching her to find food and shelter, to read the signs of weather and danger. To communicate with the herd, these activities require you to think like a human again, to explain and analyze rather than simply act on instinct. Whether she chooses to stay or return to the world below, she needs to understand that there are other ways to be human. Some of the younger goats seem particularly fascinated by her, following her around with the same patient attention they once showed you. You realize that she's beginning her own journey of transformation, though it may take a very different path than yours. You find yourself remembering things about your former life, not just the pain and loss. Your transformation wasn't just about healing from grief, was about discovering a new way to be human, a way that bridged the gap between civilization and wildness. Mira's presence reminds you that this bridge goes both ways, that your unique nature allows you to help others find their own paths to healing. The constant ache of loss doesn't disappear, but it becomes something she can carry rather than something that carries her. You begin to teach Mira not just how to survive in the mountains, but how to understand the deeper connections between all living things. You show her the patterns you've learned to see, the ways that everything in nature is connected, the secret languages that exist between species. The mountains have given her what she needed: healing, understanding, a new way of seeing the world. But unlike you, she isn't called to remain here. She learns to find peace in the simple rhythms of mountain life, to appreciate the beauty of sunrise and sunset, to take comfort in the warm presence of the herd. But more than that, she begins to develop her own unique perspective, her own way of bridging the gap between human and natural consciousness. Where your transformation led you to become more animal-like, hers seems to be leading her to become more fully human, but a new kind of human, one who understands her place in the larger web of life. But the joy and wonder, the capacity for complex thought and emotion that makes humans unique among the animals, the desperate pain that brought her to the mountains has transformed into something else, a deep compassion for all living things, an understanding of the preciousness of life that comes from having faced the possibility of losing everything. She sees that you have unlost your human nature. You've simply found a way to express it that encompasses more than human society usually allows. In her eyes, you see not the monster you sometimes feared you'd become, but a being who has found a way to live fully in multiple worlds. She speaks to the herd with a gentleness that rivals your own, moves through the mountain landscape with a grace that seems almost supernatural. You begin to understand that your transformation has uneliminated your humanity. It simply added new dimensions to it. She remains stubbornly human, maintaining her upright posture, her human eating habits, her human ways of thinking and feeling. You begin to understand that there are many ways to heal from grief, many ways to find peace after loss, and not all of them require abandoning one's essential nature. You are not just a guardian of the herd, but a potential bridge between the human and natural worlds. She hasn't learned to live in the present moment, to find peace in simple existence, to accept her place in the larger pattern of life. She's at the beginning of a journey that you completed years ago. Your unique nature, neither fully human nor fully animal, gives you the ability to understand and communicate with both sides, to find solutions that neither could discover alone. She watches you with a mixture of fascination and fear, trying to reconcile your human intelligence with your animal behavior. your obvious care for her with your alien appearance. The herd has grown larger and more complex under your guidance, incorporating members from several different groups who have sought your protection. You can help her adapt to mountain life as the herd helped you guide her through the same transformation you experienced. Or you can try to send her back to the human world, to the life she was meant to live among her own kind. You've learned to manage their different needs and temperaments, to balance their various territorial claims, to maintain harmony within the larger community. In doing so, you've developed skills that you recognize as fundamentally diplomatic ways of thinking and acting that could apply to conflicts between human communities as well. She's not equipped for mountain life, doesn't understand the dangers that surround her, won't survive the coming winter without help. But approaching her would mean revealing yourself, acknowledging the human part of your nature that you've spent years transforming. But the greatest test of your abilities comes when you encounter something you have unseen in years. Another human being alone in the mountains. You watch her from a distance, at first torn between your animal caution and your human compassion. The decision is made for you when she stumbles into a crevice hidden by snow, her cries of pain echoing across the valley. Her reaction to your appearance is everything you expected and more. Her name is Mira, and her story is not so different from your own. But you also recognize the differences. She's still fully human, still trapped in the cage of human consciousness with its constant worry and regret. The herd accepts her presence with the same calm tolerance they once showed you. But you can see that she's struggling to understand this new reality. You find yourself faced with a decision that will define the next phase of your existence. But as you watch her struggle with her grief, as you see the same desperate pain in her eyes that once filled your own, you know that you can't simply send her away. It's a strange experience, like learning to speak a language you thought you'd forgotten. Mira's presence also changes the herd's dynamic. They're curious about this new creature who is so obviously human, yet under your protection. As the weeks pass, you watch Mira's grief begin to transform. But unlike you, she doesn't seem drawn to complete transformation. Her different approach to mountain life teaches you something important about your own journey. As summer reaches its peak, you make a decision that surprises even yourself. She learns quickly. Her human intelligence combined with her growing intuition, allowing her to grasp concepts that took you months to understand. The change in her is remarkable, but perhaps most importantly, she begins to understand your own transformation not as an abandonment of humanity, but as an expansion of it. As autumn approaches, you know that Mira will soon need to make a decision about her future.